All right. Shout out to the mighty Who Dat Nation. Big Q in the building. Shout out to FanDuel, the official sponsor of the show. Y'all hit up FanDuel for all your prop bets. Whatever. FanDuel is the lick for all your prop bets and more. Shout out to the fam. Appreciate y'all for being in this one. Please feel free to smack upon the like button, the subscribe button, and by all means, hit up the notification bell and share the show on your social media feed. Shout out to the fam. Appreciate y'all, man. In this one, man, we're going to talk about a little combine buzz. Really a lot of stuff going on right now. Shout out to NOLA.com, Matthew Paris, with the scoop and some information to deliver to you and the rest of the fam at the Who Dat Nation. So anyway, take place, of course, we know about Indianapolis. I just passed through that not too long ago. Just passing through, taking care of some business, handling South. Really interesting, man, about all the stuff that's going on with the Derek Carr situation as we get closer and closer to the start officially of the offseason, when the free agency and all this other stuff kicks in the way. The Saints have to figure a way to kind of get that money down so we can get proactive. And of course, there's several different news notes and items to talk about on this broadcast, but the Derek Carr situation cropped up. We did an update on it a show ago. And it's growing legs, man. We had some verified NFL insiders that was talking about the fact that Carr is very interested in unretiring to get into the NFL for what could be his final time, right? So he's healthy, didn't like the fit that the Saints represented. That's fine. We cool with that. But he could net us a draft pick, maybe two, depending on what the team we're trading with will be motivated to give up for him. So Derek Carr, actually, if he decides to unretire, just one team needs to be motivated enough to persuade the former Saints quarterback to return, hash out a trade, and work through whatever pops up along the way. So based on several conversations at the NFL Scout Combine, doubt exists over the idea that a team, especially a contender, would be willing to put its faith in a 34-year-old who hasn't played in years, coming off what is described as a major shoulder injury and didn't have the best track record of postseason success to begin with. Yes, that's interesting and could be true. The quarterback market isn't great, and yes, Carr seems like he wants to play. But if Carr is serious about only returning for a team that can win it all, that very much narrows his options. There are teams out there that fit this criteria, right? Minnesota, perhaps Atlanta, Pittsburgh, all clubs that have talented rosters, have been on the quarterback carousel and are desperately trying to find an option that puts them over the top. Any of those would be a great fit for Carr, but would it be a great fit? What would it be great for those teams? As logical as it might appear for those teams to take a swing, it's easy to come up with the counter arguments. If the Vikings want a vet option, why not just bring back Kirk Cousins, their former starter who meshes well with Kevin O'Connell? Pittsburgh brass has already indicated that they prefer Aaron Rodgers. That will take Carr off the table. In Atlanta, that's, how they want to begin the Matt Ryan era. In my case, they started with Kevin Stefanski as a head coach. So why would he not be interested in Derek Carr? We don't need all the teams, just a handful of teams that do see Derek Carr as a help. I think the Minnesota Vikings do make sense. That's a good point about Kirk Cousins. He had a lot of success in Minnesota. Perhaps he goes back there. That'll be interesting because he's on the market. And then, of course, Atlanta's a team. Indianapolis could be a team. We know that Richardson, the quarterback, is up for a trade. That came out this week, that he's interested in, wants to be traded out of Indianapolis. So he's also going to be thrown in that market. And the reason why this is feasible is many reasons. And some of them, the fact that Derek Carr recognized that in the free agency game, there's not a lot of stuff popping, to be honest with you, fam. There's not a lot of stuff going on in terms of the quarterbacks in free agency. There's not really much going on there. So that's why it is looking like, okay, teams are saying, man, listen, this would be interesting if we decided to want to find a quarterback or whatever, or in the play. In the positions, if you look at, let me see if I can pull up a list of them. just to show you guys some of the quarterbacks, if I can, that are unrestricted as free agents in the table. And, let me see if I can pull that up for you guys. Hold on just a second. And go from there. But yeah, it's an interesting dynamic that's going on. Matter of fact, here we go. We'll come back to that article momentarily. Look at this. This is a little receiptage for you guys. These are the top quarterbacks that's available for this NFL 2026 free agency. Daniel Jones, who is interested in going back to the Colts. Remember, he's coming off a leg injury, a muscle tear. I think it's a hamstring that he tore. And he is, might not be ready, but he wants to go back to the Colts. The Colts like his fit. He has to rehab. Aaron Rodgers always, with Mike McCarthy taking over Steeler land, the relationship between those two guys, and that's already put out there. And Aaron Rodgers is welcome to come back. You see guys like Marcus Mariota, Zach Wilson, Tyrod Taylor, Kenny Pickett, a 35-year-old Jimmy Garoppolo, Case Keenum, Trey Lance, Carson Wentz. Malik Willis is another interesting option at 27 years of age. Hell, you got a 45-year-old Phillip Rivers sitting up there. So, you can look at it. Gardner Minshew, there's not a lot of great quarterbacks there. Hendon Hooker is interesting too, but he's an ERFA already with the Jets. So we don't know. This is some of the free agency guys right now. And of course, Anthony Richardson could be added to this via trade. Something perhaps what happens with Kyler Murray. They had some rumors situating around there. Some of the brass came out and batted that away. And then, of course, this is why if you look at this list of free agent quarterbacks, and of course you look at the list of draft quarterbacks coming in, there's not a first round. There's Philip Mendoza and then Simpson, depending on how he performs in the pro day and in the combine. We'll see where his stock is there as well. He is considered the second best quarterback coming into this draft. And there are a lot of other guys that's like day 2 and 3 picks in terms of the quarterback position. So you're not going to find a quarterback there, right? Not early on. So what would be your thought process in terms of where you're going to get a guy? Even if you got a young quarterback, where are you going to find a veteran quarterback that can kind of steady it for you? And that's why Derek Carr is interested in coming back now based on what I just told you guys. He's not a fool, right? But also there will be 2 years to go from the fall and to the skepticism that all cards align for Carr. If he wants to come out and play right now, unretiring and play right now, this would be the perfect scenario for Derek Carr. Just to be honest with you, this would be if he's waiting for anything else, is he interested in coming back into the league? If he doesn't do it right now, then you could pretty much understand and know that it's not going to happen. And I think this is a good opportunity for Derek Carr to get out there and do it. And a lot of us want to see Derek Carr out there and handling this business. We want to see that. Why? Because it'll help the Saints in many different areas, right? It really do. The Saints still control Derek Carr's contract. And with that being said, it'll be interesting to see how the Saints handle that, man, right? He retired and he's still on the books. We still got dead cap money from Derek Carr. From 25, it was 19.2. And of course, in 2026, it'll be 36.6. Plus he had 5.6 million that transferred over from the Raiders. So all together, it's over $61.5 million in dead money. That's just a fix to Derek Carr. The Saints have paid him $10 million of that money. So anyway, I'm giving you the money, the contract, and the fact the Saints still own his contractual rights. And if a team is interested, and it could very well be that teams would be interested in getting Derek Carr. Derek Carr works in the right system. You still have teams like Miami. Some of these teams could have good talent around them. They just need a veteran leadership, and he'll be in a situation where perhaps he competes with a younger quarterback. And I can see that happening, man. It could be it'll be a good positive. Plus, we'll accrue an extra pick, and we'll kind of do away with a lot of the dead money that we've accrued. And it's like unworking that situation where we don't have to address that. So anyway, the undisclosed X factor in all of this is his contract. The Saints don't see quarterbacks' contracts as any sort of obstacle in potential trade talks. With that being clear, multiple people this week acknowledged that any team taking on Carr will likely have to address the deal for him to return. As a result, Carr's retirement, his contract told, meaning he walks away with 2 years left on his deal. So he would return with 2 years left on his deal, even though a year has passed. And at some time he walked away. The guaranteed portion of Carr's contract was essentially over with. In that case, why would Carr ever return without additional security? Throw in the no trade clause in his contract. Yes, he has one, and Carr gets to pick his destination. It wouldn't make sense for him to do it without reworking his agreement, even for a player who surprisingly agreed to give $30 million upon retiring last May. Interesting concept. Being said, the interesting part of the equation is the contract is a part of it, but if you got teams, man, that want a quarterback, the veteran quarterback that is healthy, that can step in and help, you don't have many options. So this changes a lot of the narrative where they have to be patient in place. Some of these teams are facing desperation times where they need to really step up and make a decision on that thing. Having Derek Carr in a situation like Indianapolis, where he comes in as a veteran and compete, or Minnesota, or any one of these other locations where you could be a potential player, but you have a veteran quarterback that's backing up the starter or in the competition with the starter, it could work. It really could work, and we'll just have to see. But according to the insiders, they're saying this heavily about Derek Carr, and the time is now. Really, it is, to be honest with you, because this definitely going to change next year. Now is the time. All right, let's move into Spencer Rattler, from one former Saints quarterback, to a current quarterback, the backup, Mr. Spencer Rattler's market. Saints aren't in a rush to trade Spencer. As of now, no other team has called to check on the 25-year-old availability. And in my estimation, that's cool with me, because Spencer Rattler hasn't shown enough for people to be that wild in wanting to bring him on as a quarterback, despite all of the commentary about people wanting to see him start somewhere, all this kind of stuff. He had an opportunity. He can sit behind Tyler Shuck right now and learn and just be insurance to keep things going for if God forbid something happened to the starting quarterback. You got to have two good quarterbacks in this league. So New Orleans would have legitimately be moved by an offer to part ways when we got to be legitimately moved. They got to be offering something, right? And there's a sea of backup quarterbacks who could be moved this spring. The Bears acknowledged there's interest in Tyson Bagent, while the Jets have been linked to Philly's Tanner McKee and Houston's Davis Mills. Indianapolis gave Anthony Richardson permission to seek a trade. San Francisco, Mac Jones has won 5 games and now has Kyle Shanahan glow. Green Bay's Malik Willis, the most desired of them all, is set to cash in at free agency. He could be headed to the Jets. We don't know. The Saints believe Tyler Shuck and Rattler have a great dynamic, creating no reason to break them up no time soon. Absolutely not. But at some point, you would think the Saints would either draft another quarterback later on in the draft or sign another quarterback, maybe a veteran in free agency that can kind of complete the run. You know, we do have Hunter Deckers as a camp arm, but are the Saints really comfortable with Deckers as the third quarterback, or will they go and find a veteran? Is this the time when we seeing Carson Wentz on the market? He's a lot older. Would that be a quarterback that the Saints bring in as a third quarterback to steady the run? Time will tell. All right, let's shift gears to Alontae Taylor. Alontae Taylor, to me, is by far the most interesting of the topics for this offseason, insofar as because his signing or non-signing could impact what we do in the draft, right? It definitely could, because if we sign Alontae Taylor in free agency, then the Saints could shift and adjust in the draft. Like, if we don't sign Alontae Taylor back, I could be possibly looking at the Saints. If Caleb Downs from Ohio State is there, that would be the call. If he's signed, the Saints might shift to something else. You know, if you have a hole at the position Alontae Taylor plays the star position, you have to fill it. You don't fill it with anything. I don't think the Saints are going to sign an expensive player at the position where you can just draft the Caleb Downs who can step in and do what Alontae Taylor is doing in time and give you interceptions on top of it, right? Not just 4 picks over 4 years or whatever it is, that he actually would be a better version of Alontae Taylor. In my estimation, he has the speed and the IQ and would work in that role in Staley's system, and he would be a pro bowler for multiple years in the Saints secondary. That's all it's one of the top 3 or 4 or 5 in the game right now. So it could shift perception of who you want to draft depending on how the Saints approach it. And the reason why that's being said is Alontae is believed to be seeking a deal comparable to what Paulson Adebo got with the Giants last year, which is $18 million a year. Now, even though a year has passed, I don't see the Saints giving Alontae Taylor no $18 million a year. That's not going to happen. That's why they let Paulson work. The Giants overspent on Paulson Adebo. He only gave him 1 pick, and he was torched a lot for the Giants last year, right? So I don't see that. He might be looking for that, but I don't think he will get $18 million a year because at least Paulson Adebo got interceptions. That's something that Alontae Taylor didn't get. He can tackle, he can do all this other stuff, but he doesn't get picks. He dropped a lot of interceptions over his time in the Saints secondary. If you think about it, he's a fantastic safety that comes up and make tackles on blitzes. But that other end of his game and coverage, he's not the best coverage corner, and he damn sure ain't the best guy to get the picks. So $18 million is out of the question, even though that's a year later in terms of the Paulson Adebo money. That's still unfixed with Alontae Taylor. Absolutely not. I don't think he gets that, and we'll see what the market is, man. Y'all put y'all comments in the section below, and then also hit that like button, man. If you're not a sub up, man. We in this thing talking Saints. So what he gets, it'll be a different story. Taylor was initially reluctant to move inside to the slot because of what it could mean to his future earnings. Those fears aren't necessarily validated, but several people said there is a gap on how teams value Taylor. Chicago's Kyler Gordon is the NFL's highest paid slot corner at $13.3 million, almost $5 million less than Adebo. So, but the case is, the 18 is out of the question to me. That is out of the question for Alontae Taylor, but it's 13 and a half or 13.3 in that alignment, right? Is that more favorable to what you want to pay Alontae Taylor? That's the question for me. And in terms of what I'm looking at, that might be the case. I don't know. We'll see what the market indicates here, but there'll be a couple of people that will be looking to try to see if they can offer Alontae Taylor, some money like that to kind of get. I definitely think that teams are going to throw some money at him. I definitely see that's going to happen, but how much is yet to be determined. But some people may feel 13 million is too much. I would actually say anywhere between 10 and 13 million for Alontae is not bad. I would even push a nudge to 14 million. I mean, I would be kind of second guessing that. But anywhere between 10 to 13 million, I'm good with that. 14, I'm all right, but I wouldn't go north of that, right? So, 13 and a half is something like that. Maybe 13 and a half would be good to get Alontae Taylor back. And they might say, damn, Q, that might be a lot for Alontae. You can just lock in with Caleb Downs. But if it ain't broke, you don't fix it, right? And you only don't bring Alontae back if the fee is beyond what you are willing to pay for the player in terms of what you think you can get from him in the end. Because if you paying him that, then of course that Alontae Taylor would have to become a multiple year Pro Bowler at some point, because his numbers would be near what Kyler Gordon is getting, right? So he'll argue with you that he plays inside, he plays on the outside, he plays where you need, he could be a safety. He'll argue these points, but and argue the fact that he gets the tackles and all that. But what really hurts his numbers is the stats. I mean, the picks. He doesn't get interceptions. That's the thing that kind of hurts you about him. Now, Gordon's deal too was signed last April, and positional values in the NFL rarely gets reset for 9 quarterbacks in the way it would take from Taylor to get the 18 million a year. Now, Chicago's commitment for Gordon, for what it's worth, is also why the Bears will likely be out of the running for Taylor, despite their reported interest in him at the trade deadline. Now, Alontae, though it's versatile and talented, some teams may easily believe he's worth the money because he can play outside in base packages and excel on the inside. The Raiders have previously mentioned have coaches with ties to Alontae and ample salary cap space. Now, Taylor said at the end of the season, he believes his market will be robust. All it takes is one. So there you go right there on Alontae Taylor thought process. Y'all drop y'all comments in the section below. Let me know what y'all think about that Alontae Taylor situation. And as I've said, man, I believe that that is probably the most interesting of the topics that we deal with, because it can really decide, what we will do in the draft. I would like to go into free agency and kind of sign what we need, fill the left hole at the guard, at the guard position, the left guard position, the hole at the left guard position, sign a good veteran, one of the top guys in free agency there, sign another next tier guy for the right guard position, see what Luke Fortner's about, see if we can get him back, as the backup center for Erik McCoy, and then be about the business. See if we can add some help at the wide receiver position, see if we can add some help, get a veteran wide receiver in the quarterback and a veteran quarterback in the third levels of free agency. Perhaps we then go into the draft. The Alontae Taylor thing will be talked about. What we do with, DeMario and Cam coming back, a few of the reserves that won't cost a lot of money that we could sign back, guys like Chris Rumph II, Jonah Williams, Jonathan Bullard. Those guys are also free agents. Do you bring those guys back? Stuff like that. You kind of lock in the loyalty. But in terms of Alontae Taylor, who's a big addition or a big player for our defense, I would have to say anywhere between 10 to 13 million. I'm good with that for Alontae Taylor. Anything over that, I would just be bucking on. I don't know. I would have to then I'll be looking at going into the draft if that was the case. And that's why down is up. The Saints met with all kinds of incoming rookies at the combine, is one of the reports. So it's not necessary news when they meet with a star prospect. They said Ohio State's Caleb Downs left quite the impression. So much so that there was a feeling that if he interviewed that well with other teams, he'll be gone by the time the Saints pick at number 8. Now, of course, we did a film work on patreon.com/the Pro Media Network, link in the description section, and our YouTube membership page or show footage about Caleb Downs from Ohio State. And what you see from Caleb Downs, he does it all, man. He can do everything. I'm not saying he's better than Alontae Taylor, who's a four-year NFL veteran. I'm not saying that at all. But what I'm saying, at the end of the day, he has the potential to be better than Alontae Taylor for his career. He has the speed. He can tackle. He's highly intelligent. You can play him in different looks. He can come up and blitz for you. He can drop into coverage, and he gets interceptions. That's one thing I like about him. He's a complete defensive back that won't cost you the 13, 14, 15, or what Alontae want, 18 million that you would go with, you know what I'm saying? But the downside is if you select Caleb at 8, then you miss out on potentially Jeremiah Love, right? And that's one of my favorite draft picks, college players rather, that's in the NFL Combine that will be in the draft. That's one of my favorites. He's one of 15 of one of my really like the guys who will make an impression on your team, along with Caleb, this Jeremiah. There's several others that really are going to be impact guys for your team that will contribute in year one, right? So Downs would be the replacement for Alontae Taylor if they don't go for it. And Alontae Taylor, it's a feeling across Who Dat Nation that Alontae's pretty much done. He's gone. All right, and let's talk about a few odds and ends here. Now, the opinions are split over whether linebacker Demario Davis ends up testing the market. He will test the market, but it shouldn't be shocked to see him at least talk to other teams when the negotiation window opens March the 9th. We got less than a little bit over a week left before we see that happening. And Davis still would like to reach an agreement with the Saints. The Saints would like another pass rusher regardless of whether Cam returns. Never say never, but even with a strong group of tacklers in this year's draft, the Saints don't seem on track to take another offensive lineman in round 1. The Saints have expressed a lot of confidence in Kelvin Banks and Tali Fuaga and their development. The Saints are bracing for some team to give center Luke Fortner a chance to start, likely putting him outside the price range. That makes it more of an important for Erik McCoy to stay healthy, though. New Orleans will almost certainly look for depth at the position. Right? The Saints blocked the Raiders' interview request to speak with wide receiver coach Keith Williams for what would have been the same role on Clint Kubiak's staff. So we stopped that, and Williams is a terrific wide receiver coach. He got his hands cut out, or his job rather, to perform with these upcoming wide receivers. There's a lot of inexperienced wide receivers that are there, and we'll be seeing if Keith Williams got to get a lot of these guys up to playing on a higher level here to kind of help Chris Olave out, man. So anyway, let's address some of the things we talked about here. It is true, and it is a understory to talk about with Luke Fortner. Luke Fortner is definitely going to get interest from other teams. Carolina is one team that is mentioned, and there's a couple other teams that's mentioning about him, but the number one team that I see in terms of some of the rumors that are interested in Luke Fortner is Carolina. They're looking to make what they perceive as an upgrade at the center position, and they do have their eyes fixated on Luke Fortner. And Luke Fortner will not give up money with in the starting job with Carolina to stay a backup for Erik McCoy. So the Saints have to be ready to potentially lose Luke Fortner. This is something we have to monitor and watch out for, fam, because who we pick up and replace with him will be interesting. There are some interesting options in the draft that the Saints can go with, maybe in the second or the third round or the fourth round, that we can pick up as a potential young center to train eventually to take over the center position. I know we have Erik McCoy on our team for an additional, I think Brother McCoy is on the team for another couple of years at least before his contract is up. I want to say yes, he has 2 years left, $10 million this year, $10.5 million for 2027 when he turns 30. So he has 2 years remaining on his agreement. So it'll be interesting to see how the Saints handle that. Now, of course, they can go into free agency and see about picking up a free agent center, or they can just do what they did with our tackles, just simply pick up one in the third round. They got a couple of really good centers that's in this draft that should be available in the third or fourth round for the Saints if they're astute enough to be able to take care of some of these other needs. But offensive line, outside of some of the skill position players, but offensive line and free agency should be the priority for the Saints, right? Getting the left guard, getting some competition for the right guard, getting the center, the backup center, whether it's Luke Fortner or, signing a veteran or drafting somebody in the draft. They have, and also another tackle. So it's a couple of people we do know that Will Clapp retired. Shout out to Will Clapp. He retired and gave it up. A guy that just lived the dream, man. He started off playing high school football in Metairie in the area. He went to LSU, and then he went from LSU and ultimately became a Saint. He did the dream of a lot of ballers, footballers from down here from the area did. He played for LSU and had an opportunity to play for the Saints, just like Tyrann Mathieu, the Honey Badger. So, it's a fantastic thing. So shout out to Will Clapp. That's his retirement. And we just got to keep it moving, and we got to need help. So one of the biggest position groups that we're dealing with is that offensive line. Interiorly speaking, we need depth. We need a left guard starter. We need help at the right guard position. We definitely could use a tackle, and we could use a center if we lose the one we got. So we have to focus on that too, because we're going to need that offensive line to block for our quarterback and open up the lanes for whatever running backs, Elvin, Kendre Miller, whomever we're using, right? So that's pretty much what it is and how it is, man. So that's what I got for y'all today on this one here, kind of talking about a little mix of different events that's going on right now that started with this man, Derek Carr. So with that being said, I'm going to get out on that, man. I like to appreciate all y'all, man, for stepping in for this episode of the show. Please feel free to hit the like button, the subscribe button. Shout out to FanDuel, the official sponsor of the Sports Coma. Y'all hit the like button and the share button, man. If you're not a sub, it's easy. Just sub up, hit the sub button, man, and join the Coma, man. As we get on our race to 15,000 subs, man, we a few off, man. Just hit that sub button, man, and help us get there. With that being said, I'm out. Much love, peace, and who that take.
that say they gonna beat them Saints? Who that? Who that? Who that say they gonna beat them Saints? Who that? Who that? Who that say they gonna beat them Saints? Who that? Who that?
Hey, New Orleans! Whether you're catching up on Saints news at Jackson Square, checking Pelicans scores in the Garden District, or staying updated on LSU while grabbing coffee in the French Quarter, there's one place that keeps you connected to everything that matters in our city. From Bourbon Street to the Superdome, from Preservation Hall to the Riverfront, New Orleanians are staying in the know with the WhoDatDaily.com. Your daily source for Saints, Pelicans, LSU, and all the sports, music, and culture that makes our city special. At work downtown, at a game in the Dome, or just relaxing by the Mississippi, wherever life takes you in the Big Easy, you can stay connected. Because when you're from New Orleans, you don't just live here. You stay in the NO. That's stay in the know. Visit the WhoDatDaily.com and never miss what matters most to Who Dat Nation.
Welcome to the Pro Shop, where we create authentic NOLA-inspired clothing for men, women, and children. From Saints jerseys to Pelicans gear, everything's crafted right here in New Orleans. Whether you're shopping the Pro Shop, the Pel Shop, or the Pro Shop Kids, we've got your whole family covered with genuine merchandise that represents our city's spirit. Check for links in the description section below or in the chat.